Hello, Carmen Molitor with the Pinnacle Team at RE/MAX Properties.
And Amy Cavender with eMortgage Capital and Assumption Solutions.
We're here with more information about assumptions.
Yes, we are. Thank you for having me again.
Thank you for being here again. So today we're going to talk about pros and cons of doing an assumption.
Yes, there are a lot, but we're only going to touch on a few.
Yep. So let's start with the selling side.
Okay.
With the listing. For a seller, there's some really nice pros there, especially in this changing market that we're experiencing. It is an advantage, a selling advantage, a competitive advantage, perhaps, for a lot of the houses that are being sold throughout the community that don't have this option. It also opens the door for more buyers, because if they can assume the loan, then maybe they can afford more house. Well, not maybe, they can afford more house.
Right.
And so that makes your house more viable than maybe the folks that don't have the option to do an assumption. And that means potential to make more money. So really a lot of positives for the seller.
For sure.
Yeah.
For the buyer, obviously you're coming in, you're assuming at a lower interest rate, which equates to a lower house payment, which equates to a bigger house usually. It also can equate to a shorter term. So typically our mortgages start at 30 years. Well, if you're assuming a mortgage, the seller's been paying on it.
Yep.
Seller might have been paying on it for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. So you're not buying into a 30-year mortgage. I've had buyers tell me, this is a 2.25% house. It's not a 6 or 7% house.
That makes sense.
So back to the pros for the sellers of, if you've got a house that may not be getting any traction in the market, and you've got one of those 2, 3, or 4% interest rates, it might be worth looking into.
Yep. Instead of a remodel to compete, offer the assumption. Yeah, perfect. So there's some cons associated with this, of course, like anything, and probably the biggest con is it can take longer.
Correct.
It doesn't always, but it can take longer. So anywhere from, people are used to a standard 30-day contract to close, but sometimes it can be 30 days, but it can be 60 to what's the longest you've seen?
6 months. Actually, I've got one that I took over, and they called me and they said, we've been trying to get this done for 18 months. Well, I don't know why it was taking them 18 months, but I got involved and we're getting it done in about 3 months.
So nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So definitely some cons as far as the time frame and how long it takes, and we're all used to the instant gratification, which equates to a 30-day. It depends on the servicer, and that's part of the problem that we as human beings have is we're not in control of the closing. That servicer is typically going to tell you your closing date on the contract. It's a great suggestion, but we'll let you know when we're ready to close.
Yeah. And one of the other cons, of course, we talked about it in a previous video, is if you were to let a non-veteran assume your loan on your home as the seller, that ties up that eligibility amount that you cannot then have to use to buy another house.
Correct.
So that can be a con if we don't have a veteran buyer assuming your loan.
Correct. As far as for the buyers, the biggest con I would say that we see is people struggling to come up with that gap. So the gap is the difference between the purchase price and the loan balance. And so, we're seeing gaps where there's no gap, okay? But we've also seen up to $1 million in gap. So
you need cash in order to bridge that gap.
Correct. VA did come out and announce that they are allowing second mortgages now. They've always allowed the second mortgage. However, it used to be that their requirement was that second mortgage was assumable, and they have lifted that requirement now.
That's good. You still need at least 10% down.
Probably, yeah, because that second mortgage is going to be a little tough to get.
Yeah, and higher interest rate. And so you have to really run the numbers, let Amy run the numbers, to give you a true idea, a true picture of what your payment's going to look like if you needed to get a loan.
With those blended rates and see if it makes sense still.
Yep, absolutely.
Flexibility is the key word, though.
Yeah.
Whether you're looking at the pros or the cons of it, flexibility, you need to be flexible with how long it's. Patience is my word for 2024 again. So,
but it might be worth it if you can get a house with a bigger house for your family and with a interest rate at 2.25%.
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, thank you as always.
Thank you.
Thank you for your business, your support, and your referrals.